oftentimes people call prison the belly of the beast. But I want to repivot that language to the womb of the beast as we look at solitary confinement, where people are put here for years and days indefinitely. And unlike a mother that's nurturing a child with amniotic fluids, this womb of the beast is producing something else. It's a lot of pathology, toxicity, isolation, alienation, trauma is being, used on this individual that's housed in this space. And this is where they have to develop at, with a lot of things missing out of their social life and everything. So before I talk any further, I want to pivot on this so I can get y'all to really see. I'm still healing, but I'm way far from where I was at. I wouldn't do this work. I got to be able to see human beings, through, their shattered lens of their experience. And that's what we want to do to get to where we're going. It's the pivot, the human pivot. And it leads me to this. That's for the people out here who never experienced that, to go to this cell to see how people feel. But unfortunately, there has been a lot of people who did not make it out of solitary confinement. I know some people personally, when I was in the Indiana, Department of Corrections, as I did a decade in there, just because I was fighting for my case. That's why I was in solitary confinement. I was fighting for my case. And because of that, I was made to be a threat to the safety and security of the facility. Fighting for my case, I'm innocent. And I eventually was exonerated. But a lot of people failed back then. And I just want to take time right here to definitely honor, a few of the loved ones of some of the people that sit in the room who were lost in that particular form of torture. Joel Blasting, Benjamin,
that's my son.
Your son
died in solitary.
What I want to do, and I went and I touched everybody before coming up here. This is a trauma-informed space, and that's very important. I'm very serious about this, and we must be able to bring health and healing in our spaces. If I'm doing this work, I shouldn't be going home yelling at nobody. I should be the same person here healing. If I can heal in the work, we can heal at home. And I just want to let y'all know y'all are that important to me. You important. And I respect y'all experience. I can't even, it got me tearing up. And realized I was talking to myself in the future. Because I didn't know if I was going to make it. So I was talking to myself in the future, and I called it. I was like, man, how could I think of something like this? You know what I mean? But you had to be going through it to really think about it. So I want to pivot on that, because I want to pivot on the human side of what we got going on. We got people who are in there, and it's very treacherous. But I want to touch on how it affects the families, how it affects the children of people that's in there, how it affects society when people come home. Here at Solitary Justice Project, I'm pivoting as a lived experience professional. We taking it to another level, because oftentimes, just because somebody got lived experience, you got a system that's like, you don't got a degree. But nobody can tell me how to put on my shoes if they never walked in them. And I'm just lucky and blessed to still have my mind to articulate these things in a way that's right. Facts are facts. And you must be able to deliver them. And you must be able to tackle the hard questions and be realistic. And this is what Solitary Justice Project is doing. My fiduciary is Citizens for Prison Reform. And I'm very honored that to have them to accept me, to bring me into the family, of open my door with the things that was already in progress that's been happening here with Lois Polano, with Hakeem Crampton, and you know, many others that's a part of that movement. And you know, for real, I'm very honored. Tap me in, you know what I mean? Hakeem approached me and Lois approached me. It's like, it ain't too many people talking about solitary confinement. I'm like, yeah, man, that happened to me. I got to keep talking about it, right? We want you on the team. Before you know it, I was at rallies and stuff. Lois, she was like, Leon, you need to carry this right here. Make sure you get up here. But that's what she do. She's a hard worker. Her and Mark, you know, coming down here, and that's what I'm looking for. Looking for these hard workers. They are extremely hard workers and doing their thing. So we are established right now with a grant, and one of my main focuses eternally is to focus on solitary survivors, right? Because people who go through that significant amount of trauma, that means that it's harder for them to navigate. When you look at the statistics, it shows that someone who has been exposed to solitary confinement is way more susceptible to suicide, right? To substance use disorder. So I'm just gonna carve it out. Post-incarceration syndrome. And it deals with 5 legs. Substance use disorder, institutionalization, post-traumatic stress disorder, social sensory deprivation, and it's one more. Help me out, somebody. What's the last one, John?
Did you say social sensory?
I said social sensory.
Reentry?
Substance use disorder.
Something about authority.
Antisocial personality disorder. I'm sorry. No, I'm in it. You know, I'm human. But you got these things. People are very, you know, susceptible to these things, and they hit people in different ways. It's nothing out there that is documenting this, how people get out. But somebody that been in prison, particularly solitary confinement, they get penalized here in society with the stigma for the things they don't know. And I have Jonathan Roden. He's a solitary survivor. He'll be coming up later to tell you about social sensory deprivation. We have Hakeem Crampton. He's the liaison for citizens for prison reform. He's their liaison, and you know, he worked policy and everything. He's gonna tell us about the policy. We also have a special guest. We have Senator Thendar, who's flying in and coming in. This is his center, you know. He showed us this space, offered us this space, and said that, you know, he's fighting on our side. He's on the federal level, you know, so he's doing a lot of stuff. If you know about him, you know, he definitely, you know, he walked the walk that he talked. And so I'm with anybody that's doing that. The minute that they not in politics, I'm not messing with you. Well, our interests ain't there no more. We got to be principle over personality. This issue is about principle over personality. And we living in a society that deal with personality over principle. We're not on that. The minute Leon Benson cannot do this job as a director, replace me. And so on, you know? So we standing with people with the right principles for our loved ones that's inside. So what I want to do right now is, many of you have came to the events and you know about the model solitary cell. So I know we can go, what I wanted to do is for the people who hadn't experienced this, I wanted them to go inside the model cell, get a feel. Because first, you know, I feel that people need to connect with the issue. This is a human issue. If we keep looking at our people and loved ones as something like a number or a prison, no, that's my son, that's my daughter, that's my mother, that's my father. So I really implore, in the next 15 minutes, I want to do a 15-minute break, and I want to allow the people who haven't went into the solitary cell to go in there to get a feel of it, and we'll come back and I take some questions. I want to hear, what did you feel, things like that, and we'll continue this program?
So a carceral system, a prison system should first and foremost be trauma-informed. It should not only just be trauma-informed, but should be trauma-focused. Particularly when we see right here in Michigan several decades ago, they closed down our mental health hospitals. So that means that people, unfortunately, are criminalized for their mental health illnesses. So they are no longer treated for their mental health illnesses, but they are instead placed in a carceral settings and punitive settings, right? So it should be trauma-informed and trauma-focused so that we're producing an outcome that is supportive of individuals that are incarcerated. It should also be education/program-oriented. That when people come inside the prison system, we evaluate what do they need while they're here. What supportive services will help them become better individuals so that when they transition back to the community, they have received what was necessary of support so they can be successful upon release. Next, it should be rehabilitative. Now, that's a misnomer word because oftentimes people say, well, a lot of people who go to prison were never rehabilitated to begin with. But what we really mean by rehabilitative is that it should be supportive in a way that allows individuals to get what they need while there. That includes the programs, the education. That includes trauma, the mental health therapy. It includes all of those elements. That it should be rehabilitated, that people should come out better than when they went in. And lastly, it must be humane, safe. It must be humane and safe environment. Without being humane, without being safe, all we're doing is worsening people's condition, and we're sending them back to the community in worse conditions than they went in. So, Citizens for Prison Reform is focused on legislative aims and goals that support this work. And we are a part of the National Unlock the Box campaign. Our statewide campaign is called Open My Door, Open Michigan's Jail Cell Doors, Open the Doors is what it's really aiming at. But it's a part of the National Unlock the Box campaign. And this National Unlock the Box campaign is scattered across the country in different states and different communities. Advocates like us are advocating for reform with the solitary system. And many other communities like ours have already advanced legislative goals. They have already introduced bills that limit the usage of solitary confinement. And here in Michigan, we've been recently working with Senator Stephanie Chang, who has really been working with us over the last year. And really this work has been much longer than a year. But over the last year, we have been working on a bill draft. And we've been sitting down with the proper advocates, Michigan Disability Rights Organization, and other advocates in our community, NAMI, these organizations that will really help us craft a bill that really meets the goals of limiting and ending the usage of solitary confinement. So I'm going to highlight some of those pieces and elements because it's important to understand where we're going with this and why it's important. It's just a start, so to speak. And we hope to ultimately see this transition beyond just the state of Michigan's legislative goals, but to ultimately go to Washington, D.C. with a federal bill, a bill that could be passed very similar to the work that we're doing here, that could then be picked up at the local levels, at the county jail levels. Right? So when we have a bill that is passed statewide, we have a bill that is passed federally, it really gives guidance to counties on how they can become better, how they can serve their communities better. We've recently had the opportunity to work in Washtenaw County, a part of their restrictive housing program. They thought that, wow, we could do better with the way in which we have people serving time in our county jails. And as a result of that, they were willing to sit down with us to allow us access to their solitary system, to what they call restrictive housing. So Lois and myself got a chance to meet with them on a weekly basis for a couple months, in which we were sitting down helping them review cases, individualized cases. It was their aim and objective was we want to get them transitioned back to general population, get them out of solitary. When we started working with them, they had maybe about a dozen people in solitary. And week by week, the number continued to go down, continued to dwindle, till it was just a few people they had on restrictive housing. And they thanked us for helping them understand and see that the impact of solitary confinement was having on them. And they also agreed to support one of our objectives is that solitary cells should not just be these blank cells like you see here. They should be something that is therapeutic, something that has imagery, something that is, that doesn't deprive them of senses. Because when you go in these cells, you can't see nothing. There's no window, there's no real world, there's no flowers, there's no grass, there's no sunshine. And it's a simple deprivation that Jonathan will talk about the real significant impact of that in people's lives. So here in Washington County, not here, we're in Wayne County, but in Washington County here in Michigan, we got a chance to help support a county jail and working through that process. So we hope to continue working with them and seeing what we can achieve. But the National Unlock the Box campaign really seeks to, I want to use this word adequately, undermine punitive segregation, to undermine the way in which the system continues to use it to punish people. Because it ultimately has a big effect. When people go to solitary confinement, they can lose what's called credits, jail credits or time credits. So that if you have a 30-year sentence and you start doing solitary confinement, then you lose the opportunity to gain credits towards your release. They begin taking them from you. You can lose good time. You lose access to visitation, to family members, to loved ones. You can lose access to property while you're there. You can't. There's a limitation on books that you can have to read to feed yourself, right? All these things happen in solitary. So the National Unlock the Box campaign is focusing on reducing that impact on people, so that people can continue to have a greater opportunity to not, one, be subject to it, but if they are subject to it, that they're not so deprived that it harms them mentally and psychologically.
The state, the governor, making a difference, bringing some justice. What I see is young minds suffering from mental trauma, mental illness, and then being inside a solitary chamber like that is just making things worse. It's further advancement of their, what they need is help. What they need is therapy. What they need is to be able to come out of the trauma that they're living every day. And it looks like, and a lot of their behavior is because of the trauma that is there in their life, because of the mental struggles that they experience. And instead of treating those, they have been put into more harmful environment that just makes their condition even worse. That is what is. So this is really, like our prisons now have become like mental hospitals. We don't have enough mental health services available. We don't have enough mental health beds for children in the psychiatric facilities. A lot of times these mental health issues initiate at 10, 12, 15-year-olds, and they get no help. They get absolutely no help. We have so limited, and when I was in the State House, I worked on trying to increase the bed capacity for psychiatric bed capacity for children, because many of the children would sit in emergency room because a psychiatric bed is not available for days, for weeks. And we try to increase some of that capacity.